tonight. Please welcome Gail Koelln. Is it Koelln? Koelln. Gail Koelln, I'm sorry. Cologne is a Spanish way of saying it. Is that good? I think that's...
Yes?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
go. There you go. Beautiful.
Yeah, my last name is spelled very strangely, so I gave her the pronunciation. Anyway, I was born an animal lover. One of my favorite things growing up was watching nature shows with my father. He loved putting on those documentaries, and me and my sister would sit and watch with him. And I grew to love them, and I grew to love Jane Goodall. And she became my inspiration. And because of her, I decided I wanted to grow up and become a wildlife. At the time, we didn't know what it was called, but now it's wildlife conservationist. Tough road. And so I had a windy path, career path, that'd be like multiple stories to go through. But I ended up, about 2006, working as a grant writing consultant. In fact, I worked here for a little bit for them, and I liked it. I got to help other nonprofits doing great things, like the garden, for example, but I didn't love it. It wasn't my passion. I did study zoology in school. I went as far as getting a master's degree in that. I also studied art. So anyway, sometimes things happen in your life that you're not expecting. And also, have you ever heard of something that caught your interest and you got curious about, and you decide someday I want to learn more about that, but you never really get the chance? Well, one thing I heard of is something called nonviolent communication. I'm like, oh, what is that? That sounds interesting. So I happened to be attending a Unitarian Universalist congregation on Long Island, and someone was going to give a workshop on nonviolent communication. So I said, great, I can get to find out what this is all about. Didn't cost me anything. I signed up, not knowing that that would change my life forever. I went to the workshop, and when I walked in, there was this little woman around my age standing there. She was wearing scrubs, except her scrubs were covered with parrots. And she had a collar, like a minister's collar. And on the floor all around her were a bunch of animal puppets. I'm like, what is this? Not what I was expecting at all. So I went to the workshop. It was fabulous. I really enjoyed it. And during the break, I went up to her. I should backtrack. I forgot to mention that she did tell us why she was dressed that way, which is because she was a parrot, and still is, a parrot conservationist. She works with wild parrots in Latin America. So I went up to her. I decided to be brave. And I told her, working in wildlife conservation, that's something I've always wanted to do. I've found it very frustrating. It's very, very hard to find paid work in that area. And we talked and we exchanged contact information. And I decided a couple months later to get in touch and offered to help her pro bono with grant writing. That's one good thing about being a grant writer. People like you because you help them find money. So she said, that would be great. And I started volunteering with her. And at the time, she did not have her own nonprofit. So when you're trying to raise money and you don't have your own nonprofit, you can get what's called a fiscal sponsor, which is another nonprofit that you can raise the money through. So we found something like that, and we were able to get a little bit of a grant or two, not much. But then LoraKim, her name is LoraKim Joyner, and she said to me, I've been thinking about starting a nonprofit. What do you think of that idea? And I said, I think that's a great idea. Why don't we do it together? So we did. Long story short, a couple of years later, we had our own IRS designation, 501c3, which means you're a nonprofit. And that was in 2017. LoraKim and I are still working today. And besides the fact that we're green because we're doing conservation, we're green because some of those animals we're saving are parrots, green parrots, also red ones, blue ones, etc. And this also led up to another once-in-a-lifetime experience for me, which is I got to travel in 2017 with LoraKim and some other people to Nicaragua. I'd never been to Latin America. I'd never been anywhere other than Europe. And it was very exciting. And one of the highlights of that trip is I had also never been on a motorcycle. And I never thought I would be. But here I was on the back of a motorcycle, going 30 miles an hour, I'll tell you that, holding on to this young Nicaraguan man, which was nice too. And we went on these dirt roads to go, as a team, to go and count wild parrots. The sun was going down. We got off the motorcycle. There were trees like these in the distance, and they were filled with yellow-naped Amazon parrots. And you've never heard anything like that. The sun setting, a cacophony of parrot sound in the distance, and my heart was just so full, and it continues to be to this day. Thank you.